ahead and call to order this meeting of the City of Apache Junction Public Art Commission on October 11th at 5:33 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll forget it for a minute.
All right. We'll go ahead and move into the roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Klett.
Here.
Vice Chair Nicholas.
Here.
Chair Buys.
Here.
Commissioner Coe. Have not heard from Commissioner Coe, so. Commissioner Danford.
Here.
Commissioner Ham.
Present.
You have 5 members present. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And the first thing up is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Public Art Commission accept the agenda as presented.
I second that.
All right, we'll do
Vice Chair Nicholas.
Yes.
Chair Buys.
yes.
Commissioner Danford.
Yes.
Commissioner Ham.
Yes.
Commissioner Klett.
Yes.
Motion is approved, Mr. Chair.
All right, and then we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for consideration and approval of the minutes of August 9th, 2021 regular meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the August 9th meeting.
I'll second that.
And that was a second by
Jeff.
Commissioner Jeff Danforth. All right.
Chair Buys.
Yes.
Commissioner Danford.
Yes.
Commissioner Ham.
Yes.
Commissioner Klett.
Yes.
Commissioner Nicholas.
Yes.
Motion is approved, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Announcement of artwork. We didn't have an agenda item here, but one thing I did this week, which was kind of helpful, was just check out some local jurisdictions. So just went over to, for example, City of Goodyear. Happened to have a project over there. Checked out their Public Art Commission website. You know, might be a good exercise for folks to do in their free time. Public hearings. Nothing on the agenda for public hearings.
That's correct.
Skip forward to old business, presentation and discussing regarding roundabout art to include context, regional, and historical setting.
So,
I think there's just a PowerPoint I put together real quickly. Should just be a real fast presentation. And I'll just give you a cue to click through. Is that the easiest way? Yeah. Okay. So this first quote is from the city manager of art programs at Tampa, Florida. I just found out while doing some research online. Just wanted to kind of kick off as we're getting the RFQ for our first project underway, kind of looking beyond that to one of the major installations in Apache Junction, which is at the roundabout, which I know is a significant opportunity for public art in the city. So this is just kind of a forward-thinking presentation, nothing too detailed, just something to chew on, and as we start to kind of put together a plan or put some pieces in place in preparation for an installation there. So this quote, again, from Robin Nye, City Manager of the Arts Program in Tampa: "Public art and roundabouts is a three-pronged place-making opportunity." Nye says, in addition to improving traffic safety, she believes that 34th Street roundabouts create an opportunity to promote better quality of life, foster community identity with an emblematic signifier, and develop economic impact through art. Put simply, people want to be in an area that makes them feel nice. You really make a space sing if you have all the evaluative measures in place relating to scale and content. It's not just going to be plop art. So I don't know if plop art is a technical term. I don't think so.
I like that.
It is.
Plop art. I like that.
Next slide, please. So I just wanted to start with some kind of historical context. These are just some examples. the top left is Arc de Triomphe in Paris, obviously one of the most famous roundabouts in the world. You know, a monumental structure, and it's a monument to soldiers who served and died in the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. So, you know, it's starting to establish a place, sense of history, obviously more classical approach. The bottom, or the one on the bottom left and the right, are both in Buenos Aires. So you have the Obelisk of Buenos Aires, which is 235 feet tall, built in 1936, and not technically at a roundabout, but at a major avenue downtown in Buenos Aires. And then you have the monument to the Magna Carta and 4 regions of Argentina, also in Buenos Aires, built in 1927. So these, again, are kind of establishing a sense of place, a sense of scale. Obviously, Buenos Aires is a, you know, global city, a little different scale than we might be looking at here. But still, you know, there's lessons to be learned there in terms of creating a monument. The other nice thing about the one on the right, the monument to Magna Carta, or kind of something to take away from it, is you see the 4 statues at the bottom, which are representative of the 4 kind of areas of Argentina. And so it's, you know, it's taking the art and incorporating part of the kind of regional culture, or like regional criteria of what it's there to signify. So obviously these are examples on a monumental scale. The Magna Carta was a gift from Spain. I don't know if Spain will be sending us any monuments anytime soon, but I'm assuming not. So we'll move on to the next slide. So this is kind of another different approach to public art. Wow. So the one at the top left is The Accident in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia by Julio Lafuente. We've got in the bottom left Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo, Texas by Ant Farm Collective, also on Route 66. I know Arizona has a strong tie to Route 66 in different parts of the state. And then the one on the right is 7 Magic Mountains, which is an installation in Nevada. And there's actually 7 of these columns or edifices put together that are each 30 feet tall. And I was sharing this one just again to show kind of a contrast to what some people think of as a historical anchored monument versus something that's a little more playful, a little more pop art. Obviously, the examples with the cars, I mean, the roundabout is experienced through a car. It's about movement. You know, there's a pretty strong car culture in our community. So there's, you know, there's pulling from these kind of regional ideas. And then the boulders, obviously, we have Superstition Mountain. We have, you know, this great national forest as basically the backyard to Apache Junction. So, you know, using that kind of local context and then making it a little bit more contemporary, a little more into something pop art, something that's going to grab your attention and, you know, stick out as a signifier that this is a monumental place and an opportunity for placemaking, pulling both from kind of the environmental context and the local culture. So we can go to the next slide here. So this is a really cool artist that I discovered while doing some research on roundabouts named Cesar Manrique. And I showed his work for 2 reasons. One, Cesar Manrique is a local to Lanzarote, Spain. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing all these Spanish names. But so this was his home island, and it's kind of a tourist island off the coast of Spain. And he went off, trained in Paris, came back to his home, and essentially said, I'm going to make this place beautiful. And so he designed series of sculptures throughout the town, you know, a bunch of kind of tourist architectural attractions, and made that, you know, created a sense of art and a sense of style and a sense of culture for his hometown. So I thought that idea of, you know, having the opportunity potentially for someone local or someone who really has a strong sense of place in Apache Junction, that may be a local resident or someone from the area, someone who feels passionate about it, can make a big difference in terms of the art that's provided. So that was the first thing that I thought was really cool about Cesar Manrique's work. The second part of it, which is again a contrast to the previous two slides, is these are all kinetic sculptures, so they all move and react with the wind. Roundabout, you're always moving around it. You're very rarely seeing it while stagnant. So, you know, there's art that can be embodied in the artwork itself. And, you know, I was just noticing examples of kinetic art down at ASU's campus downtown the other day too, where they have some like rotating, they look like almost like holograms as they spin and change colors with the light. So, you know, just again, kind of thinking big picture here. Is it something monumental, or is it something more contemporary? Is it something stagnant? Is it something kinetic? Just different options for things to think about as we prepare a request for proposal, that if we wanted to signify it, you know, we could try to define some of these terms if it's something that we want to encourage. And then again, also just the beautification aspect of Cesar Manrique's art and creating that placemaking. If we go to the next slide here. So these are probably familiar to y'all, or at least the one on the right is probably familiar to a lot of people, located in Sedona, right along the highway. So I just want to show these as some kind of like regional examples. The one on the left is actually from the town of Marana, and that one is either just recently got installed or is still underway. But just shows, again, kind of like the what's it called? Corten kind of look, metal, lots of desert colors, kind of embracing the desert region. So just wanted to give some examples too of something that's happening around us and things that might be on a more approachable scale to what we could have in our roundabout. And the next slide, or actually one other thing, if we can go back, one other cool thing about this Marana project is they also incorporated some work from high school students. So they're also bringing in the community to help, you know, partake and give it a sense of kind of local buy-in. And next slide here. So I did pull together, I found this through the, American Academy of Arts website. And so they have awards they give out every year. So this is from the Art in Public Places, and it was selected as one of the finalists for their annual awards, I think. And just gave a real quick project overview. I thought this was just helpful. Started off kind of really high-level view, but you know, thinking more into the details of what we might need to think about as part of this project. This project was built in 2001 with a budget of $100,000. I did a quick Google and converted that with inflation to 2021 dollars, which is about 50% more expensive. So, wow. You know, these days it would be closer to $150,000, $200,000. And the things I want to point out is, one, if you look at the lead artists, you see the amount of artists that were responsible for something of this scale. You know, it's a pretty big undertaking. And this is located in Bend, Oregon. And then the project team, if you look at all the, all the stakeholders that had to be part of the project as well, starts to kind of lay out that, a project of this magnitude is obviously going to have a lot of players involved that, we just need to be considerate of. It's not something that happens quickly. It's not something that happens in a silo. And then just some examples of project details on the right side. And then just wanted to kind of wrap it up here with a couple other quotes. So Daniel Burnham was the architect of the Chicago's World Fair, and this is just one of my favorite kind of architecture quotes I always think about when kind of starting down a project and just reminding yourself to think big. You know, there's always time to constrain and pull things in and bring the real world in. But at the beginning, it's often helpful to let some of that go and make some big plans. So his most famous portion of this quote is, "Make no little plans, they have no magic, disturb men's blood, and probably themselves will not be realized." So you kind of need that inspiration to get some momentum. And then the most famous quote ever about roundabouts is from Clark Griswold. Hey, look, there's Big Ben, there's Parliament, as they circle around the roundabout in London over and over again. So, just a reminder that, one, it can be a fun process, and two, most of this is going to be experienced in a car, and people are going to be driving around in circles over and over again. So let's hopefully we'll have something that gets back to the first quote and really establishes a piece of art that people will enjoy. So I think that's it. Should be the last slide there. So just a little bit of exposition to
Very nice presentation.
Very nice.
get the
And
creative juices
I
flowing.
noticed too that you were careful to pick things that looked like they would last in our environment as well, or were lower maintenance type things.
I don't know
So
about
I
what the
appreciate
maintenance
that.
is like on those Cesar Manrique
Oh, yeah, 'cause
pieces,
they
but
got moved. Yeah, I know, and
they
they're
must have a
glittery
full-time
and
person
painted.
oiling those
The rocks were
parts.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll move on then to new business and the presentation on the work plan.
Right. So the first item, though, I think is in that order is the pamphlet. So if you have additional comments, again, I think Diane had a good one just today, is just to put something on there that says a guide for developers, because it's really for them. And we're just going to publish this in-house. So we've made some minor corrections, just some clarifications from the last time you saw this. For example, on page 2, where it talks about exemptions, just to clarify that this section in the code does not apply to the following, those listed items. So it's just exemptions. Sometimes people, a layperson or whatever, might not know exemptions. So in other words, if you're doing an industrial use, you don't have to put in art. You can if you want to, but it's not required. And then I think some of the other ones on the back page, prohibited elements, just to clarify, we don't want to publish the whole ordinance in this little pamphlet, but, so in other words, that's just saying things that don't get to count as art. You can't count advertising material, so just another thing, just was a clarification. So, and the rest of it was just kind of style. We've added at the very bottom, Chapter 1, the zoning ordinance, so it's very clear where this came from, and the link to that. And then the same thing on the front page was zoning ordinance section 1-13-4, art in, so that's just very tiny print, but just if you have anything else, you can mark it up, you could scan it, you could email it to me, but it tended to just hand out at meetings with developers. So we let them know at the front end that we have this program for multifamily, commercial, et cetera. Architects, whoever their representative is, we can just hand this out at a meeting. Diane, I don't know if you had anything else to add on that.
I just have one question, and is there a link to this on a developer, on the City of Apache Junction website?
We can put this on the arts page, and we can put it on the development services page. So it'll just be a PDF. That's a downloadable PDF. Yeah. We haven't published anything yet because it's not done yet, so, but we can put it on the website.
Yeah, I tend to agree that just making it known who the intended audience is for it, because I know there's likely to be some confusion on residential projects, smaller projects that may not apply. So making that clear, even in like the title, like on the link in the website, or on the cover, I think would be helpful and probably save y'all from having to answer the same question over and over again.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you have anything else, if you can get it to me in the next week or two, then I can finalize it. We can publish it on the website. We can start using it. And again, our intent is just to make copies on the Xerox. We're not going to,
Yeah, you don't need them.
there's no reason to send it out for printing. Okay.
All right, and I guess the next portion here, we'll review the updated work plan.
Should I go ahead?
Sure.
Okay.
If I can get,
First, want to say thank you, Chairman Bies, for your presentation on roundabouts. I thought it gave a really great overview of all the different kind of styles, from the historic monument to very contemporary, lots of different scale sizes, depending on the size of the roundabout. So anyway, I thought it was really great. And like the quote at the end by Burnham about make no little plans and, aim high. And then, it really inspires people when they see great art around the city. So basically for the work plan, I just have a couple of items. You've already seen the draft request for qualifications for the dog park. So you already know some of the elements of what a draft request for qualifications looks like. And then just wanted to update you that sent in a public art agreement, and it's been reviewed by staff, including the city attorney, and that there are changes that need to be made. It's very comprehensive. It really outlines who is responsible for what the artist's responsibilities are. It gets rid of a lot of ambiguity that can happen when art, especially for a beginning artist in the public art field. So other than that, I don't have any
I'm going to see
comments?
if I can pull this up in another format, because that's really blurry just from the PDF, but.
I think those are the major developments.
What if I don't know if I put it in this folder. June.
Older copy.
This is an old one, so I don't have a new one, I'm sorry. I just went through and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, that no amount of magnifying this or not makes it any easier to view, so I'll just go through and just do some of the things. So the very first one, it says annual update. So it said completed, I changed that to, so back in September, a year ago, we approved it. So, so I just put on here, annual approval is needed. Staff report of available public art funds, I just said quarterly or it's ongoing. Again, I sent you copies, or now you know that we have about $107,000. The last big check was $100,000. So now we can really start doing things. Let's see, conduct inventory. Some of this has not changed. Art page on the website, mapping of public art. From the meeting a couple meetings ago, we have worked with, over time, I think we could purchase a database for maintenance of public art. We did meet with the GIS folks about, is it, if we just have 7 pieces of art, we don't really need a huge database. But when it grows, then we'll perhaps go purchase a database or a way to maintain the art, as you go along. If you're going to go out and have a program to annually visit every single piece of art and kind of do that, then at some point we'll have to obtain some software. Pamphlet we just went through. The public art project plan, we did the priorities. We have the first, second, and third priorities. Key goals and function of each public art project. So again, that becomes part of, I think, this RFQ process of what the goals of that particular project are. And then the draft RFQ, Dan presented that, and now we're putting that into the city's format along with the agreement, which is this contract that Joel looked at over the weekend. So all that eventually becomes one package. So it is the RFQ, and then the artist will see what the agreement that they'll have to sign. So hopefully by the next meeting, we would have a final version of that to show you. And actually, we should try to let you have a week or two to look at it, so you just don't get it on Thursday or Wednesday before a Monday meeting, so we can have a meeting just to really talk about that, and we can walk through that. Artist database, again, no need for that right now. A lot of this we're going to publish on not only the city website and do a public service announcement to let people know that we're doing this RFQ, but release that through some of these other websites. Over time, again, it's down the road, but we want to have, if someone wants to donate a piece of art, we have to figure out how to do that. So that is still TBD. Public art master plan, I think, is a longer-term endeavor. Same thing with community involvement. I think we want to do that as we do each part, like the dog park. That will be part of the process to get some community involvement. Art maintenance program, I just kind of talked about that, and we've talked about it before. The last two things on the bottom, those were like their own rows. So it says objective, long-term goals and objectives. Well, some of those were kind of in this thing here. So actually kind of move stuff up out of those categories. So we just end up with these 4 categories, and there was really nothing down below. So with your permission, I'm just going to delete those bottom rows. This one.
Yeah, I think, I mean.
Yeah, those two. I don't think there was anything in this rows, and there was in these rows, and there was only one here, and I think I just moved
Yeah.
up there, so I'm just gonna get rid of those altogether.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the public art master plan kind of encompasses that header,
Yeah.
so.
All right. So I don't know if we need to approve it tonight. I guess we would, Joel, do we need to have something on the agenda where they approve it, like a motion, or?
Yeah, because just,
Because if it's a once-a-year thing, the rest of it, we're just kind of updating you, but,
yeah, but there's no approval for it tonight, so
Yeah.
it'd be on the next agenda
Next agenda.
okay.
and up before vote.
Okay, and we'll just, again, that will just show just the 4 headers. We'll drop the last 2 headers as they're picked up in line items for the master plan, essentially.
Yeah.
One thing I am curious about was, so just looking at some of the dates, I mean, we've done, I really appreciate all your work, Diane, in getting the draft RFQ, getting the draft art agreement. We're starting to see some of these dates come to fruition here. We have the public art pamphlet in October, and the inventory is, well, I mean, that's pretty much complete at this point, right? We're just integrating that onto the website.
The website is already up and running. Again, one suggestion I think Diane mentioned about the inventory was really only putting public art on there. I think we've included other pieces of art that are viewable to the public, but they're not our public art. So I think we had 2 or 3 pieces that were on there that are not, the city has no involvement in. So it's just information if people want to know that, or somehow we designate that these are the city pieces versus the private. So we're not, I guess if someone wanted to start their own website of their driving down the whatever street in AJ and there's a piece of art in someone's front yard. We talked about that last time about let's not have a bunch of gawkers come and.
Yeah.
But so I think on our website, we really want to just publish city art. And then if, on some other website, if they just want to discuss art in general or where it might be in the city, because there's a new Buffalo right down the street, but I don't think we need to put that on the city website. I think it's a Buffalo.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it on the way here.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a strange spot.
It's in a strange spot. So those are the types of things I don't think we add to our public inventory. Just-
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, because the city of Superior, for a small downtown, has a lot of public art, but they're not necessarily city projects. They're groups that have gotten together, schools that have gotten together, and they've installed them, and they actually do small mural tours and show all those murals, even though they're not done by the city. It just gets attention
Are they
to
on
them.
public property or are they,
No, some are on private property. They're just in the downtown.
Who conducts the tours? City people, or is it the
I'm
organization?
sure, no, I think it's the Chamber of Commerce that does the tours.
Yeah.
And they actually charge for them. You get a map and everything. And they raise money for the Chamber of Commerce.
and maybe it's just the way the page is set up, that it clearly denotes, hey, this is a public project
Right.
versus.
Right, they say who
We're
did
not
the
gonna go out
project.
and, we're not gonna go out and inventory it and like we would the public art. So
Right.
Maybe we just distinguish between the types, I guess.
It's just showing that there's art to view when you come to Apache Junction.
Yeah.
And again, we can designate this is not a city project.
Yeah, I think as long as you're just saying, one is a privately owned piece of public art versus city-owned, because sometimes if something happens to a piece of public art and people see it, they may automatically think it's owned by the city, and they'll call the city up and just say, hey, so-and-so just ran over this piece of art, you need to get out there and fix it. So it just lets the public know which pieces of art the city is responsible for versus privately owned.
Yeah, there might be something, again, you'll have to decide, it might not be tasteful, and we're putting it on a city website, and it might create all sorts of controversy, so, whatever.
Maybe you could just do something like, eventually on our website, there could be a place where people who wanted to load up their art, they could submit a picture, we could approve whether it was appropriate or not, and then just put it on a page of local people's art that want to be involved, and that way we're encouraging people to be more interactive with it anyway.
And be non-commercial type stuff.
Yeah.
And available for public viewing.
Yeah, so like if on our page, we wanted to support that and say, hey, because we want people to get involved with it more, and say, here's a link that, just like, I'm trying to think of the Goldfield, or it's the Superstition magazine or something like that, people submit their photos of nature.
Superstition Living.
Living, yeah, that's the one. And then, you know, they approve of them and publish them that way. If we did something like that, it might be fun, because people would enjoy seeing their stuff up there.
And then it's only residents that actually want their
Correct.
private residence on display.
Yeah.
So public versus publicly viewable, and then we would review.
And we're not inventorying it.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
approving whether it's okay, and we can leave it up there, or we can decide later if we want to clean that off every once in a while or something.
Okay.
That might be a solution.
Well, and that, the city has that program they announced the other night, where we have a display of art in City Hall, and it's seasonal, and we haven't done it for a couple of years now, but that's up and going again. And the city, I guess we could talk to upstairs to the city manager and say, is that something, because I don't think they, other than seeing it if you're here in the building, it might be nice to figure out a way to display that on our website somehow.
Yeah.
Might encourage
publicly
more
viewable.
participants, but it's not this body's program.
No.
But we could at least encourage that to be more widely
We can help advertise.
advertised, yeah.
For the city.
So along those lines, tangentially, you know, as we're putting the database together, we are also grabbing some of the metadata where we could for artists and things like that. The artist database, as we come into wanting to submit the RFQ, I feel like having a database is going to be necessary in order to make sure we get that RFQ into the right hands. And then otherwise, my question is it, you know, what is the means for disseminating the RFQ? Do we have the means for how that will?
Yeah, there are a number of websites, and some of it depends on the scale and the budget of the project. But for like the dog park, if the dog park budget is around $50,000, there are a number of websites that public artists routinely check. One is with the City of Phoenix, one is Arizona Commission on the Arts. There's WestStaff, which is Western States Arts Federation. City of Tempe has an artist opportunity page. And there are a couple of others. So I would say that it would get to you know, targeted audience of public artists, particularly local public artists. Those would be the best places to start and basically put the RFQ out there.
So the way our system works is they have to go through our website to download the RFQ, but we can advertise it anywhere. So we can advertise it on any one of these sites, and on those sites, City of Phoenix or Western Art, whatever.
States Arts Federation.
Western States Arts Federation, there we could have our cover letter or invitation, whatever it is, with a link to get them to our site so they can download. I was surprised in talking to Diane that she thought we might get 50 artists for this project.
Nice.
I think
So-
50 would be a good number for that budget. I mean, kind of the higher the budget, the more artists you're going to get who are going to apply for it. But 50,000, I would think you probably get about 50 artists. And they have to satisfy all the city requirements and what they submit. I mean, it has to be a complete submittal. A lot of the times, if it's not a complete submittal, it may be rejected. Some cities actually will call the artist and say, hey, you forgot your letter of interest. You know, just Just depends on how each city does it. But most artists who have been in the public art field kind of anticipate that. They know they're going to have images. They know how they're going to have to label the images. And they have to have a letter of intent. They have to have 3 references. They have to list jobs that they've done in the past. Basically their history of projects. So I think 50 is probably a reasonable number.
And so those are all benchmarks then, too. Can this artist get his materials into us? Is it all correct? So that we can weed people out a little bit.
It does weed
too.
people out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
weeds out inexperienced artists or artists who are just kind of like halfway in, halfway out of the public art field. Some of them just say, oh, there's just way too many hoops for me to go through. But artists who've been through this process know that it's a very involved process. And there may be an artist who doesn't want any kind of community interaction. These are artists who have to submit, once they're selected, they have to submit a concept and it has to be approved. The concept has to be approved. More often than not, there are recommendations by either an arts commission member or a member of the general public. So an artist may just say, once I come up with an idea, I don't want to change it. And that doesn't really work in the public art field.
Does it cost money to post our RFQ, is that what you said? In these websites, or are they just happy to have us? in there?
They're free.
They're
I mean, I can check on the Western States Arts Federation to see if there's, but the city websites, they're free to upload the information. Arizona Commission on the Arts is a big one. They're free to upload the RFQ because they're providing a service. Arizona Commission on the Arts is the NEA-funded and state-funded arts agency for Arizona. So they don't want to have to, you don't want to have a community pay a fee to post it, and you also don't want to have artists have to pay a fee to download it.
Right,
You want the artists to be able to freely get that, so.
that makes sense.
And I assume that you said that it has to go through a City of Apache Junction website to download the RFQ. I'm assuming that is a separate portal that's kind of on somewhere on the homepage, or is that on the Public Arts Committee website?
No, it's on a different, I'll show you right now. Maybe this will get me there. Try that one.
And there are city staff who can help people go through this process too, if they get hung up on a certain piece of it.
This one wasn't coming up. Let's see, this one's thinking. There we go. So basically, you go to government, and you go to purchasing. And then, right now, current solicitations. Does anybody want to buy
Some vacant
978 East Roosevelt? You can buy it right now. There's still time. And then these are the public works. So that's basically that it'll eventually get them there. This is the vendor bid list, but this is the way how they do it, how to become a vendor. So the terminology might be different for artists, but essentially they have to register. They can then walks them through how to register, confirming all the email, and then they'll have to have a W-9. Then they can download so it's a little cumbersome, but
Yeah, so
They'll
I was
have-
then when they get to here, they can't really download this unless they go through that step of registering.
So even if they haven't been selected yet, they still have to register,
Yes.
just
to download
to
them.
get the RFQ.
Yep.
So would it be possible to provide some guidance on the public art webpage? I feel like if I were Googling, looking for RFQs, that would probably be my landing spot for public art for Apache Junction. That could then reference them to this separate page.
Well, that is what we intend to do with kind of an introduction, to walk them through step by step. If you're interested in this RFQ, to download the RFQ, you have to go through this process.
And here's the link.
So other cities they'll just post an RFQ on their website and you download it.
Right.
But the city, this is really set up for public bidding for road and street projects. But that's what what the city is using, that's what I've been directed to use. So, yes, we will have to, it's a two-step process, create an account, confirming email. So, even at most vendors have to fill out a W-9. If you ever want a check from us, you gotta have a W-9, and that's kind of the new deal, so. But yes, I think since this is our first time, and there may be a few clunkiness things to it, but I think we can work it out. And then we're posting on the, so again, most people would just, they'd post that RFP, or we'd be mailing the RFP to people, as opposed to posting it here. So this is a little bit different, somewhat, we're looking for services. Eventually, it's going to lead to a contract, but we'll direct people how to get to exactly to this page.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think we're headed in the right direction. Just, there'll definitely be some growing pains, undoubtedly. Okay, I think for the work plan, the last thing that I wanted to I guess we can talk about it on future agenda items. Maybe I'll save my comments there for kind of next steps in the RFQ process, but it sounds like we'll have something to review in the next meeting or two.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments on the work plan?
Shaping up.
All right. Anything else, Diane, that you want to bring to
No.
our attention on it?
No, I think this is really the beginning for all of you all. It's just, you now have funds to do a project, and so start with the dog park and then the roundabout, and I think you guys are going to be off to a really great start.
One step at a time. Thank you. All right, so moving down to information and reports. I don't think we have any information or reports today. Director's report, preference for receiving commissioner packets.
Yeah, this
Is there
is
an
something
update?
we routinely do with the various boards and commissions. We have, some folks want to receive everything electronically, some want to see everything printed out and mailed to them. Our preference would be to email the packets, so haven't heard. And again, I haven't reached out to Ann, maybe we need to, because she's not been present, so I'm not sure if she still thinks it's available to call in. People can call in if you have a month where you can't be here, feel free to call in. So, and that's really up to the individual. But so, is everybody still okay with electronic PDF packets? We're not asking you to print stuff out. We always display it up here as best we can. And
Well, we always get one in the mail anyway after that. We're still getting them in the mail, aren't you still
Yeah,
getting them in the mail?
I'm still
Yes.
getting, some of us,
I get it emailed to me, and then a couple of days later, I get it in the mail.
I think some of us decided, some wanted it hard copy as well, and some decided they didn't care.
Yeah, I
Okay.
get strictly
And
email.
so the
I
ones
don't
who
get
are
it- I
getting
don't
it-
You don't get it? Yeah, I always get a
I'm
hard
getting
copy.
hard copy still.
what do people like? One by one, because otherwise I'll screw it up.
Okay.
We'll go my right to left.
Okay.
I like getting the hard copy, as well as getting the other one, the PDF.
Okay.
Digital is fine with me, digital only.
Jared.
I prefer digital, unless there's going to be like something really in-depth that we need to look over, then I prefer physical, but just for the regular packets, I'll take digital.
Because then you could always print it out if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
I don't care either way. Doesn't matter. You pick.
Digital's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm old school, I like the hard copy, but I don't care enough to have them print me one.
Yeah, certain things I think, well, again, once we get the RFQ out and we're going to sit around and go through them and pare that list down, and we'll do that. Again, we'll be getting flash drives sent to us with art on it, so we'll be plugging in flash drives and doing it that way, because we don't even have a good way of uploading those photos when you respond to the RFQ. So
We might break them in categories.
Yeah.
We can remember who everybody is.
Yeah,
We have
at that point, yes, I was just thinking in terms of mailing stuff out. If we get 50
Oh, yeah, no.
RFQs, then we want to put 50 packets together, that we're probably just going to set an evening aside and, or have
Have a
some
work
criteria. Again, we may rule
Yeah.
some out because they missed the deadline, or they didn't submit all the requirements, and then get that list down, and then we would go through and screen them.
Good.
So I just thought it'd be cumbersome to mail you 50. No artist
Yeah, no.
wants to
No.
submit 50 copies or have us running out and making 50 copies, so.
So
That's
if
a
you,
lot of focus.
let's say you get 50 people who responded as 50 artists, then you're basically going to create like a PowerPoint almost for each one of them.
Right.
And then you have the artist selection panel, you know, so I think the city needs to decide if they want to have their artist selection panel meet and then go through and judge them, or if you want to release information, which may not be a good idea, ahead of time to other people before the artist selection panel actually sees the submittals.
Yeah, no, I'd select the panel.
Yeah, so then they would come, the panel would come to you with their recommendation, or top three, or whatever you want to do. Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it'd essentially be-
anybody can sit and watch. I mean, anybody, if you've got an artist selection panel and they're going to be sitting in a room like this or whatever, and each submittal is going to be playing, you know, alphabetically one after the other, anybody, the public, members of city council, you know, arts commission members can all sit in and watch.
As long as we don't sit next to each other making a quorum.
True.
Yeah,
Well, we may have to advertise it as a public meeting, and that there may be, you know, but they're not going to take action, or they're not meeting as the Arts Commission. They just, and it's not a chance meeting, they're here, but they're not participating in the meeting.
and in general, people who are what they're called spectators are not allowed to really comment about it, but they get to see the process.
Right.
Okay. All right, well, I think I got what I needed in terms of the agenda. And I'll reach out to Ann, I guess. Okay.
So
I
the
guess we
next,
just ready for future agenda items, yeah.
yep, yeah, so I guess I'll open it up to the commission for any future agenda items.
No, not other than what you just mentioned. There was one you said you wanted to add to the next agenda.
Well, we have the work plan vote, and then we have hopefully a draft of the RFQ that we could get out way ahead of the meeting, so. Spend most of the night on that, I think.
And then the last thing that I would add as part of the work plan, and just as future, so we don't know how far in the future, I guess, doesn't necessarily have to be next meeting, but it's, the selection committee selection. We identified kind of the categories of the members, but what is the process for actually selecting the members? Does that make sense?
Yep. How do we select the selection committee?
We need a selection committee? No, I don't think so.
Okay, yes, we'll have to, we can talk about that. What our process is for selecting a
Yeah, because we
selection.
do need a process, we will need a process
Kind
for
of hammer
that.
that out.
Yeah, I think we might give you a list of names, and then what their backgrounds, attributes are, and I think we'll have to go out and do a PSA or something for that as well. Is a call for selection committee members, and then present that. And I think most of this is done by this committee until we get to the selection of the artist, and the artist goes to the council. Who the artist is going to be goes to the council.
Well, the
The
recommendation.
recommendation. Of
Recommendation.
who the artist is going to be, yeah.
And at that point, I presume they would give a presentation of their proposed art to the council at that time as well, of basically what the artist submitted. They would then present that
Yeah,
to the council.
Diane has explained it to me. We're going to narrow it down to 3, and then each of those persons get like $1,000, and they are going to go prepare what they think is the art.
And then that goes
And then that goes back to this.
to us, to the city.
Yes,
The
they'll say,
selection
okay, we've looked at this, they all look like, they all meet the qualifications, but we think this one fit the bill, and here's our recommendation. The council could pick one of the other two, but you make a recommendation as to
Because
the
it's
art.
ultimately the council's decision is which one we pick.
Who the artist is, and I guess what the piece looks like, really, kind of.
So we would basically present the three pieces with a priority of recommendations. We like this one, we also have these two, you guys pick.
Yes,
Is that right, Joel?
yes.
Yeah, I think usually for city council members, they review the last three, basically at that point, the three finalists have created a proposal based on discussion with members of city staff and, visiting the site and that sort of thing. And then usually the the selection panel says, here are the three semifinalists. We choose this one as most fit for this particular project. And then you hope the city council agrees with the panel, but it's a recommendation. So the city council may say, well, out of all three of them, I really like this one better, but then you're going to have a consensus from the council. So in general, city council members tend to like to have citizens select this versus saying, I want to select this particular artist. They like to have the role of the citizens in selecting the artist.
Puts it back on the community.
All right.
Okay, so I have the three items so far. Work plan, vote, RFQ review, and the selection committee selection process.
All right, I think that,
Okay.
that should provide us with a pretty busy agenda
Yeah.
next
Think
month.
so.
So moving on down then to selection of meeting dates, times, location, and proposal. Do we have a motion for a regular meeting at 5:30 PM on Monday, November 8th in the City Council Chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard, Apache Junction?
I move that the Public Art Commission hold a regular meeting on November 8th, 2021 at 5:30 PM in the City Council Chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard.
You have a second?
I second.
Chair Byes,
Yes.
Commissioner Danford,
Yes.
Commissioner Ham,
Yes.
Commissioner Klett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nicholas.
Yes.
All right, well, with that, we'll adjourn. It is 6:26 on October 11th. Thank you.
Good job, everyone.